Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. The Mexican Iguana goes viral. He socked Pitbull Cruz'S, and when he stuck his tongue out at Lamont Roach and he shook his tongue out at him for about 25 seconds at the end of the round, it's gone viral. Scared the hell out of Lamont Roach. Had me like, what was that? And everybody is still talking about it and trying to understand what caused a stoic fighter like Pitbull Cruz'S to break character, stick his tongue out, and flick it sharply towards Lamont Roach. All I'll say is, I'm trying to understand the psychology, but when he did that, it instantly went viral because it was so out of character for a guy like Pitbull Cruz'S. Cruz'S is normally, like I said, stoic, cold, stone-faced, emotionless. He's a pressure fighter, and he's in there looking to destroy you. He doesn't taunt you like he did. He doesn't showboat. He doesn't waste energy on theatrics. He's not like that, man. He's strictly a guy who enters into the ring on a seek and destroy mission. So to see a fighter like Pitbull suddenly do something not aligned with his normal behavior, I mean, it forced people to start asking questions. Now, I personally think it's because he was getting touched up more than what he expected, and he didn't like it. But some people are saying, all right, we hear you, Hood Champion, but was this confidence or frustration? Was it control or loss of control? You know, was he frustrated from getting touched up like you say, or was it that he felt that he was dominating? Or maybe he felt a bit insecure. Like people are still trying to figure this out because that was a very wild moment. You know what I mean? And Lamont Roach was like, the fuck? He didn't know what to think when Pitbull Cruz'S put out the old Mexican iguana tongue on him and shit. So let's try to understand this because I'm sitting here still laughing because it was funny to see Lamont Roach. He didn't know what to do. He was like, man, I got a Mexican iguana in the ring. But I think when a fighter breaks character, it almost always means something internal change. You know, veteran coaches and sports psychologists will tell you a fighter's personality during a fight is their emotional baseline. When they swing away from that baseline, it's a sign of internal tension. Now, for Pitbull Cruz'S, his baseline has always been just quiet, relentless, focused, stoic, businesslike. Taunting is not part of his identity. So yes, this means something, okay? Fighters taunt for two main reasons. They're either taunting you out of confidence or they're taunting you out of panic. Now, you see, when taunting comes from confidence, a fighter is relaxed, expressive, and enjoying the fight. Couple examples. Prince Nassim was always enjoying the fight, taunting you, laughing, dancing, is making you look crazy. Roy Jones Jr. would tap his boot, sit there, laugh, dance in the ring. Tyson Fury talking to the crowd, playing around with you, just in there, man, frustrating the shit out of their opponents because their opponents can do nothing with them. But when taunting comes from frustration, the fighter feels challenged or threatened and uses theatrics to try to regain emotional control, disguise insecurity, try to provoke the opponent, mask frustration, and reassure themselves. Most importantly, taunting out of frustration often looks forced, quick, reactive, and not part of larger showmanship patterns. This describes Pitbull's moment perfectly. Taunting out of frustration, and it looked forced, it looked quick, it looked reactive, and it wasn't part of the larger showmanship pattern that Pitbull has always shown. I personally think he was frustrated. Now, the tongue flick was a leak. A moment of emotional overflow is what that was. Now, in psychology, This is called emotional leakage behavior, an involuntary act showing what's happening internally when the fighter wants to appear unbothered. Emotional leak behavior. Nothing wrong with me, you're not bothering me. Ah! That's a leak, an emotional leak. I'm going to make you feel that I'm unbothered. That's why I'm going to say, aha. That's why I'm going to stick out my tongue. That's why I'm going to laugh loud. I'm going to talk loud. You got to understand, Pitbull is normally an emotional tank. But against Roach, he was getting timed. He was getting hit cleaner than expected. He was missing more than he usually does. And Roach's jab and footwork were giving him problems. He wasn't able to bully Roach early the way he expected. So it just seems that there was some bottled frustration that leaked out in the form of a strange taunt, which now has everybody referring to him as the Mexican Iguana. So why the Mexican tongue flick specifically? I don't know. I just try to understand these nonverbal behavior analysts. They'll tell you that this type of gesture, tongue flicking, symbolizes agitation, restlessness, mocking mixed with irritation, primitive dominance display, an attempt to provoke or break rhythm. It's similar to when fighters slap their gloves together, shake their heads aggressively, shout mid-fight, puff their chest. But again, Pitbull never does these things. Like, this is not his style. So this moment was not a planned taunt. It was a stress discharge behavior. That's exactly what happened in there. So that just lets you know that Pitbull is human. And as he continues to fight at the elite level, a fighter with the right style can frustrate him, get him out of character, and can get possibly a knockout victory over him. Because Pitbull even changed the way he fought in that fight. He was trying to box. So that tells you that he was feeling something he didn't like, and he's even gone on record now and said, at first he said he would rematch Lamont Roach, but now he's saying he's okay with his performance. He doesn't want a rematch. I personally think Lamont Roach may have been hitting him and hurting him. But Pitbull is so composed, if he would have never turned into a Mexican iguana, we would have never known that he was being bothered by anything Lamont Roach was doing. So it was a stress discharge behavior that we saw on full display. Now, did it suggest he thought he was losing? Not necessarily that he felt he was losing the fight, but he definitely felt uncomfortable. In most cases, sudden taunting happens when the fighter is having trouble. The opponent is more competitive than expected, which is what I think happened here on both sides. Frustration is building, and they're trying to regain mental superiority. And Pitbull's behavior checked all of those boxes. Look, man, many fighters taunt when they're frustrated with their own performance, not the opponents. You know what I'm saying? So I just think it had a lot more to do with what Roach was doing to Pitbull than what Pitbull was doing and how he was maybe disappointed in himself. So why fans read it as out of character? Fans are going to read it as out of character, which means losing, okay? Because in boxing, breaking character is a major, major tell. For example, Deontay Wilder smiling after getting hit. That's frustration. Lomachenko sticking his tongue out at Teofimo. It's irritation. Canelo motioning come on at Bivol. That's frustration. Triple G shouting in the ring versus Canelo 2. That's not normal for him. You know what I'm saying? So when a normally stone cold fighter suddenly tries to be expressive, it's always meaningful. Pitbull was not in control at that moment. Roach had disrupted him enough to make him react instead of perform. And that's just a fact, man. Now, big picture talk. I think Pitbull expected domination. He didn't get it. I think Lamont Roach expected to dominate more than what he did, but he didn't get it. But Pitbull really, he didn't get what he thought he was going to get. So Pitbull came into that fight with the mindset that he's a stronger fighter, more powerful fighter, more aggressive fighter, more experienced fighter. He expected to steamroll Roach. I thought he would steamroll him in the first 4 rounds, which he did pretty good. But what happened is Roach was staying calm and was touching him up. And I'll tell you what, the thing about Roach, he didn't fold. He didn't get bullied. He was catching Cruz clean, making him miss, frustrating him with his rhythm and testing his patience. That disconnect between expectation and reality creates a psychological tension that explodes in strange moments, like the Mexican iguana tongue flick. So the bottom line is, what the behavior suggests, I'm going to tell you, right? With the little research I've done, that gesture came from frustration, a whole lot of irritation, forcing Pitbull Cruz to think in a fight where he normally doesn't think. He does things instinctively and just reacts, and he couldn't do that against Roach. He was being challenged. He was losing rhythm, and Roach was just more effective than advertised, and Pitbull Cruz learned that the hard way. And trust me, that Mexican iguana tongue flick, it did not come from Cruz being relaxed and in control of like, yo, I'm just entertaining or I'm just going to be show him how confident I am that I'm winning this fight. Hell no, that's not the case. So in short, Pitbull's Mexican iguana tongue moment was a crack in his armor, people. A rare moment where his calm predator mindset, it slipped, revealing that Roach was giving him more trouble than expected. It was a psychological leakage under competitive stress, and that's why he does not want to rematch Lamont Roach, because this time he may turn from Mexican iguana to Mexican crocodile. Instead of flicking on a tongue, he may bite Lamont Roach. And I don't want to see Lamont Roach get bitten, not by a Mexican crocodile. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Time to go jogging in the breeze.